Welcome everyone to the Düsseldorf International Boat Show. Sunday, boat show is going to open in 15 minutes and I'm going to steal the 29 Suntop and give you a thorough walkthrough because it's one of the most significant launches in the history of Axopar. So what can I say about the Axopar 29 range and the Suntop in particular? Well, we took the roof concept from the 37 and for the first time we introduce it now to the 29-foot range. Another feature you will see on the boat is also the distinct new bold design of the hull and everything that goes into the structure or superstructures or shapes and forms on the boat. In addition, the whole hull has been redefined and the hydrodynamics have been improved up to 30%, which means that we can now run the boat, a 29-foot boat, with less fuel than the predecessor 28 for a bit higher top speed with a longer range, with also now the new fuel tank that includes 400 liters instead of the old previous 300 liter fuel tank. We also created a way bigger bow flare so that driving in different conditions of sea states, you now have a possibility to deflect more water when you're pounding rough seas. Also, the boat has a bit of a different attitude while you're running at slow speeds. So we gave the boat a capability to drive with a bow up position in the speed range of 10 to 15 knots. The Axopars in the other way have always been renowned to have absolutely zero planning threshold. We still have that, but for the speeds between 10 and 15, now we have an added bow rise so that you can now really keep driving in rough conditions and still have one of the most driest boats out on the market. So we kept all the good parts of the 28, and through our dealers and you, our customers, we got so much great feedback that we were able to develop a completely new boat. We've kept all the things you loved on the boat, but all the other things we've just kept on improving. For example, the bumper rail stays on the 29, big heavy duty, so that you don't need to be that worried if you happen to bump into any pylons or any docks. But let's get on board and have a closer look at the boat. So let's go into the topic of walk-around ability on the boat. So the 29 has been improved in every single conceivable way when it comes down to the moldings and the shapes and curvature of the design. Firstly, this is to improve the ergonomics and your movability around the boat and your sociability. Secondly, what it's also doing is that we are able to make a stiffer construction, more rigid construction with less waste and less weight, so that we've incorporated more into the boat than we've ever been able to do in the past. So for example, the deck does not have any steps, so we just made a small slant that goes down, but you don't have any additional steps. Also, these sort of shapes, new design shapes, also comes one for the eye, the visuality, but also for the functionality. And if you look how I'm moving around on the boat, all of these shapes have a function. So when I'm moving around, even these shapes and curvatures are all made so that I can feel free to move around the boat, and as the boat is always rocking, I will always have a safe area where I can hold on to or I can lean onto, and I will not be hit by any sort of sharp surfaces. So we call this a bit of a flow design in that sense, and actually sets a bit of a new benchmark in terms of functionality combined with form. So one of the biggest new things on the 29 is found in the bow, and let's have a look at that right now. We completely redesigned and changed the front area of a 28 to 29 foot boat. What we actually did is that we have a very successful U-sofa on the Axopar 22s. And in our design stage, we took the Axopar 22 U-sofa, we moved it over the predecessor 28, and because we know that the 22 U-sofa was working well for us, and we knew that the sofa on the 37 was working well for us. So we took these two parts, pasted them on top of the 28, and then we just went, how can we make this work? And here's the end result. So we created, also as we had the request for the more bow flare, we also widened the bow area. So we have a bit wider anchor locker, and by widening the hull only above the water level, below the water level you still have the same Axopar 28 that just cuts through the waves and keeps a very dry and comfortable ride. But now, above the waterline, you are able today to sit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 persons behind a U sofa. Standard, this boat comes with an L shape, so this shape is standard, and then as an addition you can have this open bench and the table. With the table, it's actually also transforming the whole layout and functionality in different ways. One is that this table is a high-low table, so you can of course put it down, and in this area you will have a sunbed. But in addition, what we also can do is that the table has 3 positions. So we can also move one of the legs in here, and now I have a table even in here. I can also lower this table down here, so I will have a sunbed in front of the bench, but I still have full accessibility and walk around ability around the sunbed. Improvement parts. All the cushions are now fixed in place in a way that when you want to open a deck locker or a hatch, you actually don't need to fiddle around. We actually created straight access locks so that wherever you want to access any of the hatches, with the cushions in place, with the sunbed cushions in place, no problem whatsoever. Now we have a sunbed that you will be comfortably leaning around, and you still have good space for 3-4 persons up here. We also made this sort of a headrest extension, so you have full length of sunbed in this area. Really rare for this size of boat. But also when it comes to functionality, even the access to the anchor hatch, we made this small adjustment. Accessing the anchor hatch is through one of our cup holders. So going this way, now you have full access into the anchor hatch without the need to remove the cushion. Very comfortable side boulders that you can lean onto, or if you happen to take the boat only with the L sofa, you can also of course use this, as you could do on the 28, to lean on here in a standing position. So just to give you an idea of the multifunctionality, and let's now move it the opposite way. But now you have a full-size sunbed facing forward. You can use this while driving if you're securing it down, but you will still have the walk-around ability around. There is going to be a myriad of new things you have not seen on an Axopar before or on a 29-foot boat before. And let's now have a look at our multi-cabin that we have in the front, which actually functions for 3 different reasons: storage, or a toilet compartment, or even for occasional overnighting. I will open up something new. It's a huge space. It was very successful on the Axopar 28, but we just made this massively bigger and more functional. The main sleeping cabin is still going to remain the aft cabin on the Axopar 29 range, so don't get me wrong in here. But this is a very great space to utilize for the occasional overnighting or for ample foredeck storage. Let's have a look. So, showing you all of this on a video is actually pretty hard because you need to experience this yourself. You need to get in the boat and feel it yourself. The pictures doesn't really come through on how much space and how much more accommodation we've done on the 29. But I'm going to give you some sort of idea of what it is. So here we have the full storage area underneath. So if you don't take the boat with the sleeping arrangement, there will be a soft deck area in here so that you can safely store any sort of luggage, bags or anything on the areas. This bench will always be standard, and if you take an optional toilet, you will have a freshwater toilet underneath this area. But here's where the fun part begins. We have a wooden step that comes inside of the boat, and this is where the ingenuity of our Axopar team and our design team and all our partners, this is where things really start to shine and separate other brands from each other. So the step, very functional and safe step in and out of the boat. Now you just simply flip it down, and I still have space when I fill this area up. I have 2 holes in here so I can store my shoes or anything if I want to go to bed inside of this area. And very simply, the only thing I need to do is to flip down the 2 bolsters, and I have a bed very spacious to sleep 2 persons in. So this gives you hopefully a bit of the space sensation. There's space underneath the deck area for my feet to get into, but this is a very spacious space for 2 persons for that occasional overnighting. When you take the toilet option, you will also get one sink embedded into the wall. So going down into the helm of the 29 Santo, we have a lowered center position like we have on the 28, and we want to keep it this way because this way with the lower floor you can actually feel the boat way more, and it creates this sort of the sensation of driving like the 28 and the 29s are so renowned for. In addition, it also lowers you down so you're more protected by the windshield and the large consoles on the side of the helm. One thing that we changed is also that the center position is actually a bit off center, so I have more space to access on this side, but what you could not do on the 28, and this was one of the key parts from our customers for the feedback, that the driver wants to be able to exit on starboard side, and that's actually something that we incorporated into the 29. You still have the same positions of standing and driving, then leaning backwards, or then seated down and driving. In addition, this 29 actually has the world premiere of the NSX ultra-wide screens as well. So this is a very cool feature to showcase where, together with Simrad, what next generation of MFDs will look like going into the future. The helm area in itself, we wanted to keep clean and uncluttered, but what we actually did is that we prepared the console to be full width and also a bit raised in profile. So it's more or less like you have a guy with big shoulders. We wanted to create big shoulders for the 29 as well. And this is something you see on both models, the cross cabin and on the Santo. But it also gives you a way more uncluttered view of the helm, and also all the control buttons and everything is more or less on one hand. So one hand can focus on the throttle, and the other hand can then focus on all the buttons and joysticks that you need to operate the boat. A lot of storage areas around so that you can store your phones or your knickknacks all around the boat. In addition, these seats of course turn, so now with the new U sofa or comfort sofa configuration, this absolutely transforms the livability and, let's say, sociability on board a 29-foot boat that not really have been seen in the past. Now I have with the U sofa 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 person seating even in this area. So it's a very vast, it's actually an area which you need to be in yourself to actually see how big this space has become. So you can get the boat with the standard forward-facing 4-seat row in the back, but we believe that on the 29 Santo, if you don't go with the aft cabin, that this is going to be one of our most sold options on the 29 Santo. And I'm going to explain you now why, because this doesn't stop with only this setting. This, as much as the front cabin, as much as the seating area on the front bow area, this one has as much surprises in store. This table actually comes from the 45, so we wanted to have a big table that you can have a nice dining al fresco under the Santo roof, either with the roof closed or open. It's actually operated on a high-low table so that you can lower this down, and this whole area becomes a full-size sunbed. So imagine having 2 full-size sunbeds on board a 29-footer that still has the accommodation for 2 persons. Now we have the possibility to be facing forwards. So you have, as I said, 6 persons can sit in the U sofa right now, and 1, 2, 3 persons can well be faced forward. The reason why we wanted to have the U sofa in here, and not as so many competitors and so many other boat brands are doing, that they're having these U sofas all the way on the aft deck. One of the main things is, of course, the functionality of an Axopar. So with this U sofa in the center cockpit area, it frees up my aft deck space, so I'm still free to do any sort of water activity, stand-up paddleboarding, scuba diving, snorkeling, whatever, and I have a free, uncluttered aft deck. In this space, in the future, in the next weeks to come actually, we will be offering not only to have the bigger and way wider and longer fender boxes, but you will be able to have a wet bar configuration in here. So this area will be having a nice sink and a top loading fridge. So this means that it adds the functionality of the boat, and actually this option you can have with any sort of solution for the aft deck. So top loading fridge, good size sink on the side, and the grill solution, we actually are going to go with the standard stainless steel Magna type of grills, or that any customer can choose to their own preference. Huge use sofa configuration, but also huge storage opportunities. So on this boat, you're able to store all the cushions that goes underneath in this area, and on the other side, you will also be able to have storage for life vests or bags or whatever you want to bring with you on a day's boating. But now let's go for the fun part. Let's make this into a sunbed. Now I have a full-size sun lounge. So again, space for 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Backrest off, and we can turn it around. And now I have a rearwards facing position on the U-sofa. So if I want to have maximum space for sun lounging, I remove these out of the way. So you're still able to sit facing backwards, but I'm still able to utilize this for probably again up to 4 people facing forwards. So really a huge opportunity to switch around to your own liking or preference, whether you're driving or at anchor. So when the weather is bad and you have a lot of wind, sitting on a U-sofa is actually going to be creating a lot of wind back there. So now you're able to move all your passengers, or 4 people, up here, so that you're well protected by the windscreen all around and still having a very comfortable ride. At the same time, your other guests, of course, can enjoy the view back on the boat as well. And now, voila! Imagine staying at a very nice cala or a very nice secluded bay with all this space around you, all this sun lounging, combined now with the foredeck sun lounging area. This is unheard of on an Axopar, and we strongly believe you will not find another boat with this multifunctionality on board like you see now on the 29 Santop. I was actually talking about why we did this solution in the center cockpit area and not here in the back. One thing was opening up this area, but there are other things following. One thing is that if you're having a seating arrangement here in the back, you will always be next to the engine. Even though the new modern engines are very silent, you will still have, first of all, a high volume, and conversations are not going to be that easy. Anyone sitting in here, especially on Axopars, where we usually drive the boats around 30 knots, up to 37 knots cruising speeds, this becomes a very, very windy location. So that's why the center cockpit area and the center U-sofa is the way to go in our own design philosophy. All around, sturdy handrails to move around so that you will feel secure walking around the boat anywhere. You will always have a handhold, always a handrail. The roof with its inverted shape also functions as a very nice handrail all around. But it makes this moving around the boat, because boats always rock, there's always wave conditions, you will always feel safe around on an Axopar 29 Santop. Well, what does mean Santop? Well, of course, it means the electrically operated or manually operated sun awning on the roof, so that when the weather is too hot or the sun is just too bright, you can easily close this down and you will have a sheltered position in here, shaded position, to, I would say, elongate your day out at sea, because you will not be exhausted by the sun churning down on you throughout the entire day. So one thing we did not want to be taking away from the Axopar 29 that was so successful on the 28 is the helm positioning sink and a top-loading fridge underneath the seats. So the Axopar 29s works very, very well with the Mercury engines, and one of our top preferred engine on the Axopar 28 was the 300 V8 engine. And now even on a 29, this same 300 engine is actually pushing the 29 a bit faster with a bit less fuel consumption than the predecessor 28. When I was talking about the added hydrodynamics or the improved hydrodynamics of the hull and the efficiency, we're able to actually propel a bigger boat with less fuel and a bit higher top speed. My own preference will probably be the V10 350 horsepower, because then this boat becomes a true rocket, a true multifunctional boat with a single engine. When you select the single engine, we will actually add, next to the bathing platform, an extension part that widens the bathing platform to the back. And when you do a dual installation with the twin V6 200 Mercuries, and this area will be then taken away and reserved for the added engine. We have a lot of low clearing bridges around Europe and especially in the United States. And by request, we had to have a very low top lantern. But as an option, we're offering now a fold down light mast that you can also then utilize if you want to go full way and you have no problems with any sort of bridge clearances. Okay, the aft deck. We were talking about having a full openable aft deck. If you, of course, go with the aft cabin solution that you can easily also select on this boat with the 4 forward-facing seats, then, of course, accessibility for any electrical installations will be underneath the aft cabin. But now, with this configuration, we have the access for all electrical wirings and all the componentry underneath these 2 hatches. Way easier access than on the predecessor, and something that we took over from the Axopar 37. All right. So now also on the Axopar 29s, we included these side steps so that you have easy access and boarding of the boat. And following the shape of the roof, I always have a good handhold entering and leaving the boat. This is one area for access, and the second area with the anti-skid area is next to the fender box. The same thing with the roof, always secure, easy for me to move around and board the boat. On popular demand from our customers as well was also the accessibility for the main switches. So we actually took electrical main switches and remote switches from the 37 and now have them standard on the 29. Easy boarding the boat and leaving the boat, just simply turn off the boat, electrics off, forget, leave the dock. Come to the boat, power up, push of a few buttons, and you're ready to go. I hope you enjoyed the walkthrough of the 29 Sandtop. Here at Messe Düsseldorf, these boats have been received very, very well, and we are so happy to see that so many people are coming to have a look what the all Axopar and the all new Axopar 29 is all about. So see you in Düsseldorf or see you on the water during this summer. The 29s are going to be hitting the water big time. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for so much more and more walkthroughs of the Axopar stand here in Messe Düsseldorf.